My name's Tim. I work for a company called ZELLIS, and we do fitment, we do e-commerce, we do a whole bunch of different things. I'm not going to bore you with all that now. What I want to talk to you today about is how to actually grow sales, which is really what most people are here for today. How to grow sales for your business by tapping into online sales or e-commerce, as we call it. The first thing I want to start with is to think about how we shop. The way that we shop is changing. I remember as a kid, and this is not a photo of me, but I remember as a kid, my parents dragging me around Thursday night, late night shopping, driving from car park to car park, shopping centre to shopping centre, suburb to suburb, endlessly. For me as a child, it felt like forever. It was excruciating, it was painful, and they would be checking prices and comparing prices of carpet, curtains, and washing machines. Yeah, that's how shopping was done. Of course, we still go to the physical shops, but these days shopping has changed. These days people are shopping in a very, very different way, and they can be shopping literally anywhere, any place, any time, on a mobile phone, on a tablet. They can be at home on their lounge, they can be at the kitchen table, they can be on the bus, they can be, dare I say it, on the toilet. How many of us here have actually bought things online? Yeah, most people. Okay, and we've been sort of forced to over the last year or two. With COVID restrictions, we haven't been able to go out and go to the shops are shut for a while as well. So what's happened is a lot of people have actually discovered that you can buy things online, you can find things online. Some people, I think, have been pleasantly surprised and perhaps even shocked at how many things you can find online, and sometimes even better prices. So it's actually been a good thing overall. Why do people shop online? Very simply because it's really convenient. It's easy to be able to find things because you just type a word in and Mr. Google does it all for you, Mr. eBay does it all for you, it's all there. You don't have to go looking through the shops and finding the one or two different products they've got, comparing with another one. It's just easy right in front of you. Don't have to worry about the traffic any time of day. Don't have to worry about finding parking spots. You're saving fuel. That's a good thing right now. So there's a lot of benefits in why people shop online. So I'm talking to you as shoppers because you've all shopped online, but I'm also now asking you to flip around the other way and think about it as a business. There's a lot of people out there shopping online. And the way that shopping works online is what I want to deal with, because if you understand how it works, then you understand the steps to actually go through to make that really successful. Here's a couple of stats for you. I'm not going to give you many stats, but these ones are really big and I think that they're worth kind of realising. Firstly, 80% of Australians shop online. That's probably not surprising given what we've just been through with COVID, but that's a really big number. It means just about everybody is actually shopping online. That's a good start. The point I want to make is the people that are actually shopping online are the same people that also walk into your physical stores. They're the same people. It's not like different people from a different country. The same people shop online also shop in store. And that starts to give us a bit of a clue about how to actually talk to these people online, how to deal with them online in terms of the way that we would deal with them in a physical store environment as well. Over 40% of Australian retail spending was online at the height of the pandemic last year. Now at the moment it's back to just under 20%, but it's still very high. It's still in fact it's more than double what it was 2 years ago. So we know that the COVID experience has accelerated e-commerce. You guys have all bought online, and so has most of the rest of Australia. So that's a start. 83% of Australians surveyed last year by eBay said that they will continue to shop online as much as they do already. At that point, that was during COVID. So that again tells us that more people, or the same number of people that are buying online, are going to keep buying online. And the other question that was asked was how much shopping they would expect to be doing online in the next few years. And the Australians surveyed said 40% of their shopping online, 40% of their shopping they expect to be doing online within the next couple of years. So all the indicators are that we're still into some massive growth in this whole e-commerce online retail space. It might take us a little while to get back to that 40% that we had at the height of the pandemic. We've touched it, we know what it looks like, both as a buyer and as a merchant or a retailer, so it's pretty exciting, there's massive growth there. Just to have a look at the breakdown and understand why this is shifting and how it's shifting. On the left, you can see there the volume of shopping that's done online. Clearly the younger generations are doing more online shopping. That's probably not surprising. They're more digitally native. They grew up being born when the internet already existed, mobile phones already existed, so yeah, of course they're digital natives. But what's interesting on the right side is that the biggest increase in spending or increase on shopping online is in the older age group. And you can imagine the kids coming home and saying, "Oh, you can't go out, but just here, get the mobile phone. How do I do it? I don't know how to do it." And then they're showing them how to do it, and they're like, "Oh, I can do that." And so now we've got a lot of people. So it's just interesting to get that breakdown. That was research done by eBay just last year. So let's bring this back to where we are today. We're talking automotive. That's all great theory. It looks like the whole thing's going to go online, but are car parts really going to be selling online? How big is this? Is it actually a real opportunity, or is it just for other industries? Actually, it's a massive opportunity. I only came across these stats late last week, and I was absolutely blown away. This was 2020, $60 billion worth of sales of aftermarket auto parts online globally. It's a big number. In Australia, it's around about 5 billion, I believe. So, in Australia, it's fairly big. But they're projecting that that's going to rise to around 190 billion by 2028. That's literally triple in 8 years. So that's really strong growth. Now that might happen, it might not. It's just a forecast, of course. There's lots of factors that come into that. But the size of the opportunity is very real. In fact, that's probably a bigger growth projection or growth trajectory than for many other industries. And I think the reason for that is because automotive is not really quite caught up with where some of the other industries are at. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. I'm not going to go into those now. But the opportunity is real, and it's very, very big. The first rule of retail is not that the customer's always right. I know everyone says that. It's not true. The customer's not always right. We know that. But the first rule of retail is be where the customer is. If you're going to sell a product, you've got to know where the customer is. You've got to be there. So the question I've got to ask is, where are your customers? Where are they finding your products? Because if your stores are shut, they can't find them there. If your store's here in Melbourne, the customer's in Darwin, they're not finding it in your store, but they can find it online. So 80% of Australians shopping online. There is a lot of customers that also shop in physical shops, dealerships, outlets and so forth, and showrooms that also shop online. So they're definitely online. So let's now move into another phase here and have a look at how e-commerce actually works. So let's sort of get into this a little bit more. We deal with clients that have been in e-commerce for a long time. They might have been marketplace sellers, might have had websites for a while, just growing with the industry. But we also talk with a lot of clients that is completely new to them. They really just don't know where to start, and it all seems a bit scary. There's a lot of slick salespeople out there that go and say, sell your website for $500. That's not going to work. You can't tow a caravan with a Vespa. All right, you need something that actually suits the job, and therefore what I'm going to show you now hopefully will help you to understand the sort of things you need to be thinking about to prepare you for actually doing e-commerce properly and effectively, and most importantly, profitably. So the first thing I want to have a look at here is, how does cost work? How does budgeting work for e-commerce compared to bricks and mortar retail? And the answer is pretty much the same. There's not a lot of differences. I've tried to, through the different colour sections here, kind of indicate the proportion of their budget that might take up. I've got any numbers there, of course, it's different for each business. But you can see the advertising for the bricks and mortar is actually quite high. It has to be high because it's one location. If you don't walk past it, you don't know that they exist. So you've got to advertise to tell people to go there, right? With online, there are advertising things that are done. You've got advertising, Facebook, messaging, whatever. But you probably don't need to spend as much as you'd spend in physical retail advertising by comparison. Same goes with things like staff. So with retail staff, you've got to have staff there all the time. While your store's open, you're not going to sell anything if there's no staff there. But with retail, with online, you just need staff there to be there while you're picking and packing. So they might finish by 2 o'clock in the afternoon and go home. You don't need them there. There's no customers coming in. You can start to see there's some differences in where the costs are going, but they're still much the same cost. The only difference is really in the bottom line. You can see that big delivery one, and that's the difference. So if you imagine the same price that the customer is paying for the product, say $200 is that entire block, you can see how it's broken up for bricks and mortar retail. Delivery is actually going to be somehow built into that cost for the customer, or if it is more, the customer might go, you know what, it's more convenient for me to have it delivered to my home because I don't have time to go shopping, and therefore I'm happy to pay a bit more. I won't go into the strategy, if you like, around how to do pricing for online, but you get the sort of thoughts that you're going to have to go through. To be able to either build that into the price overall. With small products you can quite easily actually build the price in. Larger products, obviously heavy products, they can cost a lot to go long distances but less to go short distances, so that can actually create a bit of challenge. But that's kind of the difference between the two. The key ingredients for e-commerce, this is sort of one
one single list, if you like, to show you the areas that you need to be thinking about to actually prepare e-commerce. It's not as simple as having a website. We've had customers that have had a website. We had one recently who was an auto parts dealer selling parts. They came back after 3 months and said, look, we've tried this for 3 months, it's not for us. We want to close it down. And I didn't say this to them because they'd already made up their mind, but the fact that you buy a hammer doesn't mean that a house is going to suddenly appear. A website's just a tool, right? It might get expensive depending on what you're doing with it, but at the end of the day, you've got to use it, you've got to communicate, you've got to advertise, you've got to market, you've got to run specials, you've got to get products up there, you've got to do a whole lot of other things to actually then make the whole thing work. As a buyer, as a customer going onto a website, you're just looking for things that either take your interest or things that you're specifically looking for. In the case of car parts, motorbike parts, something that actually fits your model. And that's what you're focused on. You're not thinking about all of the data that's being stored in big databases behind, all the security certificates sitting there, or how the payment gateway is going to. You're not thinking about that. But as a vendor, as a retailer, you've got to be able to think about those things to make sure that they work smoothly. Because if they don't work smoothly, the customer gets those little friction points. I was talking to somebody earlier today that said they went online to buy something, found something $30 better price than anywhere else. And then when they got to checkout, the checkout wouldn't work with their credit card, so they tried PayPal, and that didn't work, and so they gave up and someone else paid more. It's a lost sale. So we can't afford to have that happening in online. The other thing that's also important, I think, to bear in mind about online is that, if you walk into a physical store, say you're going to buy a pair of jeans, you can go to the shop assistant and say, where's your jeans? Where are they? Where do I find this size or whatever? And they'll help you on the spot. They respond to you right there. That doesn't happen on a website. It can with live chat and things like that, but most people sort of aren't really using that properly yet these days. What it means is you've got to have the answers to every question the customer's likely to ask already on the website. So you've got to pre-think, you've got to think ahead of time what the customer's actually going to ask, what they're going to be looking for, what things are going to help them to make the buying decision, what things are going to drive them away before they even get to the website, which means you're going to do all the work up front. The great news is once you've done that work, you don't have to do it again. If you do it well, it's done, and it's done once. So picking out a couple of things out of here, you need a platform, of course. There's plenty of platforms around. Don't think that they're all equal, they're not. It's definitely worth taking a little bit of time to research the platforms, understand your business, know the potential of growth of your business, look at competitors perhaps, and look at what websites and platforms they're using. That might give you clues to what might not work. Get advice, go to a series of agencies, don't necessarily go to one. Get advice, get good information. By all means do research online, but take what you read online with a pinch of salt, because there's a lot of vested interest in what people are writing online, which often is not necessarily helping you. Product data and attributes, this is a really big one, and it's kind of like the foundation of the house. I always find it amazing that you go to all that effort of digging those big holes in the ground, putting the reinforcing in, pouring the concrete in, and then when the house is built, you can't even see it. That's what data is like to your website. It's absolutely critical. If you haven't got all those questions answered, you haven't got the product information there, when the customer goes there and you've got a picture, they're not going to buy it. If it's a $1,000 item and you don't have several pictures, they're not going to buy it, right? Because it just doesn't make them feel secure, doesn't make them feel trust, doesn't make them feel like they've really got enough information to confidently make that decision. Remember, they can't see you. They can't actually look on the computer screen and ask a question. So they're left to their own devices. So it's what's on the screen that they see makes or breaks the sale right there. Images, of course, very, very important. Fitment solution, I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. That's a really important one for parts because certain products only fit certain models, of course. Warehousing space to store the products. There's a number of different models that are around in terms of fulfillment. You may or may not stock the products in your own premises. You might actually have a just-in-time ordering model where you just call the supplier or put an order through via email or through into their system. When you get an order and then it arrives the next day, a lot of places do that. You might also have a drop shipper, so you might have a vendor or supplier that's happy to actually send direct to the customer on your behalf. They've all got pros and cons. They're not all just good solutions. So again, do the research and think through what the pros and cons are. So for example, with a drop shipper, they send the parcel out to the customer. What if they sent the wrong one? Where does it go then? Does it go back to the drop shipper? Is that going to confuse the customer? Why am I sending it to ABC instead of XYZ? Right, you're going to think through the whole process for the customer. If it gets too hard for the customer, they just firstly won't buy, but if they do buy and they have a problem, they'll never come back. They'll badmouth everywhere. You need delivery contractors in there, like Australia Post, TNT, FedEx, whoever you're using. You need staff, of course. You need some commercial policies. This kind of goes for any business, of course, you need policies, but the policies basically here that we're talking about are kind of guiding the customer as to how to deal with things. So what happens when something goes wrong? What happens when the product breaks? How does the warranty come into it? How do they contact you if something goes wrong? Is there a phone number on the website or not? I can't believe the number of websites that I see that still don't have a phone number on their website. The internet's not anonymous. A lot of people still think it is. It's not meant to be. It's not anonymous. And a lot of people these days just will not trust buying from a website that just doesn't have that contact information. So transparency is really important. So going back again, as I said, a little shop down a side street. Doesn't matter if you're the best pastry cook in town. If people don't know you're there, they won't find you, won't sell it. A website's the same. The first day you put a website live, abc.com, nobody knows what it is. Nobody even knows to go and look for it. Nobody even knows to ask. So again, you've got to market to people, communicate to people, and there's various ways of doing that online. There's experts that do this better. Often it's better than doing it yourself. The guts of it are that the more often you're seen, the more often you're going to be visited, and the more you're going to sell. And that's really, really basic logic, of course. In the e-commerce space or the online space, we talk about impressions, clicks, and conversion. Impressions is just the number of times that your business is seen, wherever it is. Number of clicks is when a customer's actually clicked on the link and gone to your website, and then the conversion is obviously when they got through checkout actually giving you some money. So that's the logic. So the impression, there's two important things for this. Number one is you need to be seen. So you need to do the marketing, you need to do the promotion so people actually know that you exist and they know where to go. The second thing is you need to also be able to convert, and conversion comes back more so to information, trust, credibility, reliability, promises, managing expectations. I can talk about this for an hour. You get the idea. There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of psychology in the mind of a person sitting on their own, not allowed, with nobody else around, looking about to pay $200 for something. There's things happening in microseconds there that you need to be able to understand, to be able to give them all the assurance to say, that's okay, we'll take your money, thank you very much, and you're going to get exactly what we promised you. And it's all okay. And if something goes wrong, we've got you. Just the same as you would in a physical retail store. So being able to express that online is really, really important. As it says there, above all, build trust. That's the most important thing. And that's a concept. That's not like a piece of data. That's not like a colour. Like that's a concept which is sometimes difficult to translate into the online space. Of course, we don't give money to people that we don't trust. I've used the example before where you say, you walk past somebody in the street, you don't give them a $50 note and say, hey, buddy, go grab me a coffee and bring back the change. You would do that with anyone in here that you didn't know. And yet here we are feeding money into the machine, money into the computer, giving it to people we've never met, businesses we've never met, probably will never visit, never see. So trust is absolutely critical. And I think as a retailer, as a dealer, if we can think about that in the way that we present our business online, that's going to really, really make a big difference. Okay, so that's kind of how e-commerce works. They're sort of the main ingredients. I want to come back and talk now about that sort of final stage. We've got onto the website, that's great. Mission accomplished, well, partly. Part of the mission's accomplished. We've got onto the website, we've got them in the door. Now how do we get the money off them? How do we get them to actually buy something from us? This is the really important bit. This really comes back to what I was talking about before with conversion. How do we convert them? When you're in a physical store, you can see if the customers' eyes are going to somewhere else and say, oh, we notice you've seen our t-shirts, would you like one of them, sir? You can respond, you can react. On a computer, you can't look through the computer screen and see them. So you've got to be able to anticipate this. So I've used the example of a big windy road up in the hills, and the term that we use is guardrailing. We've used that term because when you're up on the mountains, you need that guardrail there to make sure you don't fall. So the fact that you've got a website, this is why I say, don't just go for any platform, don't just go for any old $500 website, it's not going to work. You've got to be able to think about, when the customer lands on page one, what do they see? Does it make them run, or does it make them want to go further? You've got to ask that question, because it doesn't happen automatically. You need to think about this. It's what good designers will do. When they then find their product, which happens to be the right product, do they know it's the right product? Are they absolutely certain it's the right product, or do they just think that that's one of your products and there might be something else? Like, you've got to think about that process. So we call it guardrailing in the way that we approach the design of a web store, and the way that it actually works, so the customer actually goes through to checkout in as smooth a way and an efficient way as possible, without getting lost, without feeling confused, without feeling uncomfortable. That's the thing, and again, trust is obviously paramount in that. So I said I'd talk a bit about fitment. This is a big part of the work that we do at ZELLIS. Fitment is simply where you go to a website, you choose your make, model, year, version, whatever it is, press go, and then they show you all 100 parts that fit your particular model. That could be farm tractors, it could be cars, it could be motorcycles, it could be sewing machine parts, it could be anything, it doesn't matter. The idea is about providing absolute certainty and reassurance to the customer that this will fit the one that you've got. This is it. And that, of course, is going to build trust, build confidence, and allow them to actually buy. This stat actually came from eBay. We've been working through a fitment program with eBay recently where we found that once the eBay sellers have been adding the vehicle information to their products, so that when they go onto the eBay site, the customer types in Holden Commodore 2012 station wagon V8, they get only the products there that actually fit that specific model. And so confidence is very high. And sales have gone up by around 40%. That's a dramatic improvement. Everyone would love to have 40% more sales. So it sounds easy and it's a great result, but there's a little bit of work to be done. So this is probably the most technical screen that I've got. Hopefully it's not too complex, but basically there's 4 options to actually apply fitment to an auto parts website. And when I say auto parts, again, it could be caravan parts, it could be trucks, it could be motorcycles, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be just cars. Your 4 options are basically, the 2 on the left are existing vehicle lists. So TechDoc is one, Redbook is another. They're literally lists of all the vehicles that are available in Australia. There's pros and cons between the two. I'm not going to compare the two. There's pros and cons for both of them. TechDoc comes from an overseas company in Germany. They've got global data for most markets around the world. They've got they're here in Australia. eBay uses them here in Australia. Amazon uses them in Australia. So they're quite well recognised. And the benefit of using that is that if you tag your products to that, you can just turn around and flick a switch, effectively do a little bit of design on the front of the website, and you've got a pathfinder on the website. You don't have to do any more work. So that's really convenient. Redbook data is very familiar to us with sites like carsales.com, bike sales, obviously Redbook itself. And a lot of the Australian insurers are using Redbook data as their sort of vehicle list for you to go through and work out which car you got so they know how much insurance to charge you. So again, it's very familiar language and terminology for vehicles. It's Australian owned and operated as an Australian public listed company, which is great. The Redbook tagging, if you do that to your products and say, right, fits these vehicles, that can also be translated across to eBay fitting if you're selling on the eBay marketplace as well. So that's pretty cool. Your other options are cheaper, but they're not always possible. So the vendor fitment one means that if you only buy from one vendor and they've said, we give you make, model, and year for every part that we've got, you're home hosed. You don't have to do any extra work, just load it up to your website, put it in your part finder, and away you go. That's great. The reality is that a lot of retailers and a lot of dealers are dealing with parts from multiple vendors, and they all describe the vehicles differently. So you can't just throw them all on the same list, it doesn't work. So that's where you've then got to come back to one of these master lists and say, right, we're going to pick this list, that's how we define the vehicles, and now we've got to translate what the vendor's given us to that master list. But it's a bit of work, yes. The final one is we actually do it yourself. So we've had clients do this. We had a Ford dealership here in Melbourne that wanted to put up about 20,000 parts. They had all the information about which parts they fit, but it was all very cryptic. It was also abbreviated, so it's no good for customers. And so our data team had to go through and translate that into their own list that they told us which vehicles they wanted. They gave us the list, and we tagged to that list. And that sits in our system as well. So they've got that on their website driving their part finder. The downside with that is that it's probably the most intensive way of going about it, because you've got to actually create that yourself and make some decisions. It's not something you can change easily then. And also, as new models are released, you've got to go and add those new models. If there's any errors, you're responsible for those errors. So there's a few factors to think in there. So yeah, the last option, even though it's cheap to do because you're not paying anybody else to do it, so that's cool, but you've now got to have a dedicated resource in your business, which is going to cost money, to actually maintain it and upkeep it. So it's a bit of a false economy, and we've found from our experience very few clients actually that's the best model for them. Usually it's better to go with an existing reference list. So that's sort of the 4 options as to how you can actually get that done. The Redbook one, which I mentioned before, I talk about a little bit more because our system has already got Redbook provisioned in it. TechDoc is going to be provisioned very shortly as well. For those that aren't familiar with this, Redbook data has never been available for e-commerce until we've been able to bring it to this this sort of situation. So this is really exciting. It's a really good data set, and now it is available for that. Certainly some of the OEM dealers use this already through some of their systems, so it's kind of using a really, really good standard. It's widely used by a lot of the motoring insurers, so you'll see it, this data on a lot of websites quite easily. Another great benefit is you've got photos of every vehicle available, or every motorcycle, if you want. It's an extra option, but it's not expensive. And that is currently available as well. So if something that might interest you, by all means come and have a chat with us. When I'm talking about reference data, I'm talking not just about make, model, year, but things like transmission, wheel size, number of seats, number of doors, whether it's a maxi ute, a half cab, a twin cab, a four-wheel drive, a high wheelbase, low wheelbase, long wheelbase, short wheelbase. All right, it's all of those attributes, because we know the cars are all different. They all look the same on the road, but we know that there's different motors in them, there's different gearboxes, there's all sorts of different things going on. So when the customer comes to the website to find a part that fits their particular model, they're going to type in their year, their model, their specific one, and they need to be able to find parts. So some parts will fit all the models of that particular vehicle, and others will only fit some. So how granular you go and how deep you go is really up to you as a vendor or retailer. We can certainly have that conversation with you and help you how to do it. The way that we've applied fitment to websites allows you to be very flexible in that. You want 3-level part finder, make, model, year, that's enough for you? Fantastic. A lot of motorbikes, that's all they do. But with vehicles, you might want to go 2 or 3 levels more depending on just what sort of parts you're actually selling. If you're selling engine parts, you probably need to go a little more, as opposed to selling body parts, for example. That's just a little screenshot of what our system was. I realise it's fairly small on the screen, so it probably doesn't mean a whole lot to you. But the way that we look at this, there's 2 ways to sort of tag the products to the correct vehicles. One way is, as I said, by the vendor themselves doing it. So many vendors have already done this with some data sets around. We're actually talking with vendors at the moment to get them to do that to the Redbook data through our system as well. The great thing about that is when they've already done that, they're already on that master list, so you can add other products into it, and that work's already done for you. So as a retailer, that's a fantastic situation to be in. And the second way is when you actually tag it yourself. We're trying to encourage more vendors to do it so that when other retailers come to sell their products, it's already done, because it's a lot of work and you don't really want to have to do it 2, 3, 4 times. It's much better that it gets done once. We certainly encourage that. The other way is obviously where you have to do it yourself. You can do it, we can do it, we've got the solution for it, but basically you go through, find the vehicle that you want, narrow it down to the number of doors, the engine size, the cylinders, the badge trim, whatever the definitions are that you need to define the car. You go down the bottom, check down the list, look very good, select all, save, done, move on to the next one. You should never need to touch that one again. That's the theory anyway. But that's how our platform works. That's the back end. So now we've got all the product information tagged to all the vehicles that they fit. So now the part finder can work, and now we can start to put on what we call our guardrailing features or functions onto the front of the website. And so the typical one that everyone's obviously familiar with is the part finder. That's most people are familiar with those. But it can be quite flexible, as I said. It can be 3 levels deep, 4 levels, 5 levels, 6 levels. It's entirely up to what suits your products, your customers, and your business as to what you want to do. And our system allows the flexibility to do any of those. You can also use things like fitment badging. So what this means is if the customers, say, landed on a page where they're looking at 20 products or 30 products that fit their car, even though they've put it into the part finder that landed on that page, it's still a nice validation to actually see a badge there, a green badge going, this fits your car. It's just that little bit of reassurance rather than going and say, oh, I know I selected it, but I'm actually not sure whether it's going to fit my car or not. And also, likewise, if they happen to somehow get lost on your website and go to a page where there's parts that won't fit their car, it's nice to actually have something that goes, this won't fit your car. That security is like the shop assistant saying, no, not over here, sir, over here. So it's providing that confidence. The universal toggle is simply allowing products like oils, spark plugs, things that might not be vehicle specific, decorations, interior trim and things like that, to say, okay, here's the parts that fit your car, but now click another button and now we can see all the things that will fit your car in any car, plus the parts that only fit your car. So that's, again, broadening the range of what they can buy. Fitment guarantee is another really good concept. It's just a visual thing, it's just a language thing, but basically means that the customer can be told, you've got an absolute money-back guarantee. If this part does not fit your car and you've used the part finder, we know which part you get because it comes through on the order, because we can see it, then you get full money back, or we give you 110% refund, or we do, whatever, inflator, whatever you want. But again, it's about that trust, it's about the confidence for the customer to go, even if I stuff up, I'm covered, I'm safe, and this is what retailers do very well, so bring that into the online space. A virtual private garage is literally just what it sounds like. It's a place where the customer can go in, find their vehicles and save them. So next time they go back to the website, they don't have to go finding them again. They just go back in there, click the vehicle and up come all the parts. There's a screenshot of just a sample one that we've actually got up at the moment. You can decorate it however you like. It doesn't have to look like this, but the idea is that the cars are there, they can just go in there, click the car and they're done. So it's very, very easy for the customer to actually get through there. Why is fitment so important? It's all about conversion, it's all about confidence. So there's lots of benefits. Now, have a think about this. It's not just about selling more, that's part of it, yes. But on top of that, it's also about not having so many inquiries while the customer's shopping. That's good. That's going to reduce your customer support burden straight away. That helps save costs. Reducing costs is just as good as making extra profit. They both work. Lower touch customers, customers that are more confident, customers that are happy to come back because they had a good time last time. They were able to find what they want. They were confident. They felt validated that when the product actually came out, it was exactly what they were expecting. That's good. Less returns for the wrong fit. That one's really important. Returns in automotive parts can be as high as 30 and even over %. Like, it's really, really high. In fact, some cases it is even higher. Imagine getting that down to 5% or even less, like almost no returns, because the customer can't get the wrong car, can't get the wrong model. So that's going to obviously make the customers happier. It's going to make them remember your brand, remember your website, save your website, tell their friends. This is all good for business. So fitment plays a really, really major part in driving all that. And just in closing, yes, it can be hard work. As you can imagine, sitting there, comparing the notes and ticking all the vehicles, it can be pretty tedious. But the point is, with that size of that growth from 60 billion global to 190 billion global in the next 6-7 years, if you haven't got onto this and your business sells parts for specific vehicles, you haven't got onto this in the next year or two, I really think you're going to find it hard to catch up, because there's massive money being spent by a lot of the bigger firms that are right here in this building today. They're investing big dollars. We're not talking thousands of dollars, we're talking millions and billions of dollars are being put into this. I don't mean to scare you by that if you're a small business, but you can still do it. As a small, agile business, if you get the fitment done right, if you get your website done right, it doesn't have to break the bank, but you've got to start. Even if it does take you 5 years to do your 100,000 parts or something, that's okay, just start. Because then at least you'll eventually get there, so yeah. That's all I want to leave you with. So thank you very much for sharing the time. If you do have any questions, by all means, come and have a chat. I'll stay down here at the front for a little while. Otherwise, come over and see you at stand Q45, which is straight over here. Feel free to come and have a chat anytime. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.